While everyone is glued up on their television every afternoon and every media house and every YouTube channel is covering the progress on the Madlanga Commission, today I want us to take a look at how much these three men cost us as a nation. Reports have already revealed that the political killings task team led by Mkhwanazi has already costed us to the amount of 415 million from its inception to date. Let me repeat that. 415 bars. 415 skoto. That's not all. Remember, the Madlanga Commission is already costing us about 148 million, 148 bars, 148 skoto. Now let's look at in this whole drama. We have a contract of 350 million that was cancelled. And then we've got these people, about KZN Matlala, costing us the country about 360 million. Yet they eat our money, they sleep in our money. Every day these people are being taken care of by taxpayers' money. Come on, guys, let's look at these costs. Let's break them down. What is happening here? This whole drama is easily gonna cross 1 billion rands very soon if we are not already there. Okay, let's start with the KZN political killings task team. How did they blow up 415 bars in just 7 years? Okay, reports are showing that they've spent the money on salaries, they've spent the money on transport, they spend the money on allowances and overtime, and they've spent most of the money also on accommodation. Crazy enough, because the reports showed that these guys have exhausted 500,000, on laundry services. Crazy, eh? So now, if you look at these numbers and you look at the categories where these monies were spent on, then you start to think. SAPS, the state, the government is spending money on salaries for this task team. The task team, according to the report, says that they have 96 members. Now, these 96 people that we are talking about are not just apples that fell from a tree and found themselves in a political task force. These people were already employed by the SAPS, already employed by the MPA. These people were already in the system and salaried. So if you are using the people that are already in the system, why having a category for salaries? Of course, you should have a category for salaries. Take, for example, maybe you put an increase, maybe because now you're putting them onto this dangerous mission. Maybe you give them, let's say, 10,000 rands extra. But now the way they portray it is as if these people were salaried from the budget, as if these people were not being paid, or these people were new, or these people were outside of the SAPS system. You see, and then you see they talk about that part of the money was also spent on transport and logistics. Come on, people. The state has facilities. The state has a fleet of vehicles. The government has a fleet of vehicles. Here we are not even talking about the vehicles that are used by the SAPS. Anyways, the SAPS has the largest fleet in the country. There are so many vehicles. Why so much expense is spent on transport and logistics? There are so many fleets. There are so many transport facilities, cars that the government owns. Even if the SAPS didn't have enough, you can even borrow vehicles from the Department of Education, for that matter, or the Department of Agriculture, for that matter. The transport and logistics category is crazy for me. And then they say that the monies were also spent on accommodation. It's crazy because the government owns so many properties around the country. In fact, in KZN alone, the government owns so many properties that these properties could have been repurposed, but because of poor management, these properties have been led to Utakuke Abole because they're not taking care of them. But if the government was governancing, and if the government was looking after these properties, it could have been easy when you gather these professionals, police professionals from all over the country and place them in government properties. Like, look, we see the movies. In the movies, you get safe houses for, what do you call this? Safe houses for about FBI and so on. You know, we've got so many facilities that we could have used. You know, take for example correctional facilities. I know for a fact that if you go to Westfield Prison, there is a staff village where all the people that works in the Westfield Prison have got space to live there. If you go to government hospitals, you find that there were villages that were built for nurses and doctors. You find that there are government-owned properties that will for mayor, for MPs, and so on. But those people are not even living in those in those properties because, well, the government is not taking care of them. If the government was doing a good job and those properties were in a good state, then the government would have used those properties, and then we would not find ourselves spending millions on accommodation, yet we've got tons of properties that are not being used. It's crazy. And then they say that they spend money on overtime and so on. Okay, that there's nothing you can do about that because you have to do investigation and so on. Then they spend money on meal allowance and so on. Okay, that's fine, that's understandable, but then it could have been controlled. It seems as if the people in power, the people in the management, the people in leadership don't really take it serious or don't really want to take the matter of spending taxpayers' money serious. It is as if they spend taxpayers' money, it's okay, then it's fine, spend all of it. Come on, these monies are too big. These are just big money that could have been avoided. The 415, maybe at least bring the cost at least half of that. Even 100 million is too much because everything that you are using is the government. Because look at it this way, the state, the government is capable of providing security, deal with crime. It has the facilities and the resources for the entire country. And now we are talking about one province that has already went to above 400 million. Repurpose these things, repurpose all the resources to boost the efficiency and capacity and participate the KZN, because it's a project. It's not going to take there forever. If you needed some equipment or maybe you needed some sniper rifle, just bring them up from the Northern Cape, bring them here, you know, repurpose other resources that are not being used so that you can minimize the cost. They talk about that they needed technology. The technology that the government has, it's lying somewhere in Kempton Park, but they needed it for the KZN Political Killing Task Force team, and then they had to buy those technologies. Come on. It just takes one. It doesn't take a very smart person to see that these costs could have been very well avoided. Another category was witness protection. You know, we already have these systems and these facilities in place. Why duplicating the cost? Here's the crazy maths. If you look at the 415 million that has been spent on the political killings task team, and then you look at the cases that they've investigated, which is 612, take that number, divide it by the total spending, then you're now getting a clear picture that according to them, each case costed them about 678,000 on average, while other detectives in the country are handling more dockets with zero budget. 678,000 per case. And now remember, not all the 612 cases started when this political killing task force was formed in 2018. Some of the dockets date back as far as 2010, 2011, 2012, but they are included as part of the cases that were investigated by this team. 612 cases at 678,000 per case. This is crazy, man. And then with all that expenditure, we ended up with the Madlanga Commission, which is costing us as a nation 148 million. 148 million for the Madlanga Commission. They say that 64 million are paying the commissioners and evidence leaders, and then they spent 79 million on logistics, ICT, venue and security. That's crazy because these facilities are there. Remember, in the beginning, the Madlanga Commission was delayed because of the infrastructure. Yet, we as the nation just spent billions on the Zondo Commission. Could we not have used the facilities that were used in the Zondo Commission than to now buy new facilities that would be used for the Madlanga Commission? It's crazy. It's crazy. Talking about security. Why are you worried about security? Because you've got security systems. You've got the SAPS to perform the duties of a security to make sure that everyone that is participating in the Madlanga Commission is safe. Why spending so much money? Where is this money going into? Yes, 5 million for the administration staff could have not been avoided. It's fine, but then again, this only talks about the first 6 months, and by the look of things, this commission may go to a year. If it goes for another year, that means we're going to be looking at another 300 million that will be spent on the Madlanga Commission alone. Come on, guys, this is just too much. And that's not all. If you think I've just finished, that's not all, because we are now came to know that this whole thing involves a 360 million deal with the SAPS that was given to this gentleman, Matlala. You see, now, if you take a look at those costs alone, we're already in the billion rands. This is just too much money that is being spent. Here's the bottom line. South Africans need to demand value. If we are going to fork out hundreds of millions, then the Madlanga Commission must deliver more than just a report. It must deliver justice, accountability. Otherwise, this is another case of government throwing money and the problem remains the same.